So, you want to learn how to slay the Spire, eh? Well, clicking on this video is a step in the right direction. My name is CoDerp, I have a couple hundred hours in Slay the Spire, and I've beaten Ascension 20. Today, I'll be sharing with you 5 tips to improve at Slay the Spire. Let's get right into it. Tip number 5. Be adaptable. Throughout your Slay the Spire journey, you're going to be faced with an incalculable number of micro decisions that you have to make in order to incrementally gain an advantage over the Spire. This is where being able to adapt to the variety of situations being thrown at you becomes invaluable. Let's take a look at a simplified example. You're playing Ironclad. You're in Act 1, and on top of the basic deck thus far, you've added a Twin Strike, a Shrug It Off, and you've upgraded Bash. Say you just finished a hallway fight, and the next node you're going to is an elite fight. You have a choice between 3 cards: Reaper, Anger, and True Grit. Now of course, when playing Slay the Spire, there's many different variables that play into what card you take. But to illustrate my point, and for simplicity's sake, let's just say you want to maximize your chances of winning the elite fight on the next node. What card would you take? If you want, take a moment to think about it, and pause the video if you need to. I'll give you 4 seconds to think about it. If you chose Anger, congratulations. You're either an experienced Slay the Spire player, or you have good intuition. If you chose one of the other two, don't fret, you're here to learn. Let's talk about why Anger is the correct choice in this hypothetical scenario. Anger is a 0-cost 6 damage attack that adds a copy of itself into your discard pile. For Act 1 elite fights, you're often going to need to take damage cards to be able to fight the elites without dying, or taking severe amounts of damage, which ultimately may end your run anyway. Anger lends itself to helping us with this goal. On top of having synergies with Shrug It Off and Bash Plus, we can go into the next fight confident that we've taken the card that lets us maximize our chances against the given elites. Taking True Grit in this situation would make our deck too block heavy and makes us much weaker in the Gremlin Knob fight, where playing skills can be detrimental. It's mediocre at best in the Lagavulin and Sentries fight, and it's going to leave us starved for damage. Reaper can be an incredibly good card, but don't let yourself be baited by the shiny text. If we take Reaper in this situation, we're going to be severely lacking in the damage department. A 2 energy 5 attack AoE just isn't going to cut it right now versus the elites, and the heal is going to be marginal. It's mediocre against Sentries, who often require front-loaded damage cards to be effective against. It's bad versus Nob because it's way too slow. If you spend a turn playing it, we're not going to make it past Nob's damage check. And the same goes for the Lagavulin fight. Sure, you can exhaust it on Lagavulin within the first 2 turns, but the opportunity cost is that you're weaker in the fight without Anger, and maybe you can't exhaust it because you drew it in the same turn as Bash, so it ends up being a curse for the rest of the fight. Bash happens to be our best Lagavulin opener. To be clear, I'm not saying there's never a situation where you would take Reaper or True Grit. Quite the opposite. You should constantly be evaluating your position and basing your decisions off that. Maybe you have a Strike dummy and a Red Skull active, so you think you can get away with taking Reaper over Anger. Maybe you took the enemy 1 HP whale bonus to snipe the elite, which brings me to my next tip. Context is very important, and this tip goes hand in hand with the last tip. Please, for the love of God, stop thinking in binaries. This card is bad. This card is good. This card is S tier, so I'm always going to take it. Do me a favor, and do yourself a favor, and throw that thought process out of the Spire window. If you're silent, and you just boss relic swap to a choker, you're not going to take a Blade Dance because some tier list has it in S tier. Is Blade Dance a powerful card? Yes, but it makes no sense given our current relic context. And to be clear, I think tier lists are good for new players and for evaluating general card power levels, but don't fall into the trap of always taking X or Y card, or X or Y relic, or event, or card remove, or whatever. Instead, follow a more structured decision-making process. Check your relics. Check your current deck. Check your HP. Check the potential paths you may take. Check who your act boss is. Check your potions and money. Check which act you're in. Check every possible variable and resource that you can think of to make more informed decisions, because these are all things that are going to influence how good the card / relic / whatever is going to be. It's okay to have fun, but remember, the thing you need isn't always going to line up with the thing you want, especially if you're playing to win. Tip number 3, learn the card packages that each class has to offer. The Slay the Spire devs, in their infinite wisdom, have designed this game with certain synergies available to each class. These synergies could be specialized, or they could be mixed and matched with other synergies. Here are just some of these packages for each class. For Ironclad, there's the Exhaust package, with enablers such as Feel No Pain, Dark Embrace, and Corruption. There's the Strength package, with cards like Demon Form and Blade Boomerang. There's the Block package, with Impervious and Barricade. For the next couple classes, I'm going to avoid listing specific cards, but I will show pictures of the cards that belong to certain packages. For Silent, there's the Poison package, the Discard package, the Block package, the Shiv package, For the defect, there's the power spam package, the orb generation package, the zero cost package. For Watcher, the stance spam package, the scribe package, the retain package. Now these obviously aren't all the synergy packages that the game has to offer, but it's up to you to discover them and meaningfully think about them and how to leverage them for your own use. Remember, always be adaptable. Recognize the package or packages that your deck is trending towards and try to pick up powerful enablers for that archetype. However, do not force it and do not be afraid to pivot based on what is being offered. Being good at Slay the Spire means carefully treading a line that keeps you alive in the early game while powering you up and setting you up for late game in Act 3. Tip number 2, challenge your preconceived notions. Are you the guy that always shies away from prepared or other cards because you have this idea in your head that it's just a bad card? Well, in Slay the Spire, there's a use case for just about every card in the game. Some cards have a wider use case than others, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't make them always stronger or always weaker than X card. I mentioned prepared earlier as a specific example because for the longest time I had it in my head that prepared was a crap card that had no place in my decks. Then I started challenging my ideas of what is and isn't a good card in Slay the Spire. I experimented a lot more and I focused on card packages I was talking about earlier. I came to find out that prepared was a key enabler in the discard package. The synergies with cards like Sneaky Strike, Tactician, and Reflex were undeniable. Don't get me wrong, I still don't think the card is God's gift to Earth, but it certainly has more merit than I gave it credit for, and that's why it's important to challenge our existing ideas and beliefs. Do not be baited into the pitfall of taking cards that have no place in your deck and then subsequently writing that card off as bad. I want you to go into your next run with a critical eye and really try to find the value in cards you normally shrug off. Final tip, stop forming bad habits. Are you the guy that boots up an Ironclad run and takes every strength card under the sun? If the text reads strength, I'm taking it. Listen, I'm not trying to knock your hustle. If that's the way you have fun playing the game, then by all means. But if you're trying to improve at the game, listen up. Oftentimes with many games, not just Slay the Spire, we stop actively using our brains and fall into an autopilot state where we just make decisions based on previous experiences. I think we've all been there at some point. We just want to turn off our brains and play the game. Let me tell you from first-hand experience that this is an easy way to stifle your improvement, not just in gaming, but in anything you set out to be better at. Autopiloting is the enemy of active learning, and this is how bad habits are formed. You need to get better at turning your brain on and evaluating your current position, not some previous experience where the variables were likely very different than they are now. And guys, it's okay not to be good at something. What isn't okay in my mind is to set out doing something that you have a clear goal in mind for, but then not taking the actionable steps that move you towards that goal. If your goal is to improve at Slay the Spire, then you need to constantly be scrutinizing your own habits, your own decision making, and your own gameplay. Every bad habit you become self-aware of as you improve can be replaced with a good habit. Have you noticed that you're too greedy with potions? That you always wait until you're about to die before using them? Instead, try thinking about how you could use that potion to be saving HP rather than always waiting until you're at death's door. Maybe that saved HP lets you upgrade something instead of resting at the next campfire, and now your deck is stronger for the rest of the game. Having good habits instead of bad ones can create a daisy chain of good events like the one I just described. And lastly, this isn't really an improvement tip, but always remember to have fun and to ultimately do the things that make you happy. Slay the Spire is a game that is meant to be enjoyed. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, subscribe, and check out some of my other videos. I make gaming challenge videos with humorous editing.